Owen Doyle warns World Rugby against rushing law changes ahead of 2027 World Cup. Former Irish referees boss Owen Doyle has issued a strong warning to World Rugby over the dangers of excessive and accelerated law changes, particularly with the 2027 Rugby World Cup in Australia fast approaching, with the sport already navigating a period of rapid evolution. From player welfare initiatives to efforts aimed at speeding up the game, Doyle believes the governing body must resist the temptation to tinker too aggressively with rugby's laws in the build-up to the sport's showpiece event. The warning comes after comments from newly appointed World Rugby chair Brett Robinson, who, just before Christmas, suggested that further law amendments could be introduced as early as 2026. Robinson has even floated the idea of trialing new laws during this year's Rugby Championship, with the intention of rolling them out globally ahead of the 2027 World Cup. While Robinson's openness and ambition have been welcomed in some quarters, not least because he is the first Australian to hold the role, Doyle believes the approach carries significant risk if not handled with extreme caution. A game already in flux over the past few years, World Rugby has implemented or trialed a series of law changes designed to improve safety, enhance spectacle, and reduce stoppages. Among the most notable have been the introduction of the 20-minute red card, the use of shot clocks for goal kicks and set pieces, the removal of scrums following free kicks, and the outlawing of blockers during aerial contests. Some of these measures have been broadly successful, while others remain contentious. What is beyond dispute, however, is that the sport has been in a near-constant state of adjustment. For Doyle, that context matters. Rugby's laws do not exist in isolation. They are interpreted and applied by referees, exploited by coaches, and adapted to by players. Every change, even one introduced with good intentions, has ripple effects throughout the game. In his Irish Times column, Doyle acknowledged Robinson's enthusiasm, but questioned the wisdom of accelerating the law change process so close to a World Cup. Robinson, who is to be congratulated as the first chair from Australia, has been open about his ideas, Doyle wrote. He suggests introducing new laws before this year's Rugby Championship, so that these can then go global and be utilized in the 2027 Rugby World Cup. That timeline, Doyle believes, is uncomfortably tight. That why the 75% rule exists central to Doyle's argument is World Rugby's long-standing requirement that any law change must receive at least 75% approval from its member unions. Robinson has publicly suggested that this threshold is outdated and potentially obstructive to progress. Doyle strongly disagrees. World Rugby's regulations state any law change must have 75% approval, a requirement which Robinson says is outdated, he wrote. But it is there for good reason. That reason, Doyle argues, is stability. Rugby is a global sport with vastly different playing styles, cultural contexts, and competitive priorities across hemispheres and tiers. A high approval threshold ensures that changes are not driven by short-term trends, regional preferences, or commercial pressures. IT also forces World Rugby to slow down, consult widely, and test ideas thoroughly before altering the framework of the game. The referees caught in the middle. One of Doyle's primary concerns is the impact rapid law changes have on match officials. Referees are tasked with implementing complex frameworks in real time, often under intense scrutiny and without the luxury of prolonged adjustment periods. While it may improve the game eventually, it takes time for everyone to adapt, including the officials, Doyle noted, who have the extremely difficult job of implementing those laws. Law changes do not simply alter what is legal or illegal. They change emphasis, interpretation, and thresholds. Referees must recalibrate instincts developed over decades, often while being judged harshly by fans, coaches, and media who may not yet fully understand the new laws themselves. In Doyle's view, introducing multiple significant changes within a short time frame places an unreasonable burden on officials and increases the likelihood of inconsistency, something that undermines confidence in the sport. Lessons from the 2019 World Cup to illustrate the dangers of rushing reform, Doyle pointed to the 2019 Rugby World Cup in Japan. While the tournament was widely praised for its quality, drama, and global reach, it was also marred by confusion surrounding the high tackle framework. The head-high tackle laws, introduced shortly before the tournament, were intended to enhance player safety. Instead, they became a source of controversy, with red cards, bunker reviews, and inconsistent interpretations dominating headlines. Before the 2019 World Cup, the head-high tackle framework was very much last-minute and caused havoc, Doyle explained. The referees, coaches, and players had no time to become accustomed to the needs of what was actually necessary for player safety, albeit introduced far too late. The issue was not the principle behind the law, but the timing. Without sufficient trialing and education, the framework created confusion rather than clarity. The law of unintended consequences. Doyle repeatedly returned to what he described as the law of unintended consequences, the idea that even well-intentioned changes can produce negative outcomes if not thoroughly tested. Rushing through law changes without the due process of the various stages of trialing is also unwise, he wrote. It takes longer than a year to see how things shape up and what manipulations the coaches may introduce. Modern rugby coaches are adept at finding loopholes, exploiting gray areas, and adapting strategies to gain competitive advantage. A law that appears sound in theory may look very different once subjected to elite-level innovation. Doyle pointed to the current line-out trial as an example of a change that now requires urgent adjustment, while also suggesting that the scrum, rugby's most complex set piece, is in need of reform, albeit with no easy or immediate solution. A call for patience, not paralysis. Importantly, Doyle is not arguing against progress or reform. He accepts that rugby must evolve to address safety concerns, improve flow, and remain attractive to new audiences. His message is one of patience rather than paralysis. With the 2027 World Cup looming, Doyle believes stability should be prioritized. Players, referees, and fans alike benefit from clarity and consistency, particularly on the biggest stage the sport has to offer. World Cups, he argues, should showcase rugby at its best, not serve as experimental laboratories for half-tested ideas. World Rugby weighs its next steps. Doyle's warning is clear. Change, when necessary, must be deliberate, measured, and thoroughly understood. The cost of getting it wrong is not merely confusion, but damage to the credibility and integrity of the game itself.